In the cold, vast expanse of space, a small fleet of alien warships drifted just outside the orbit of Earth. These ships weren't just any ordinary vessels. They were the last of a once mighty empire, an empire that had conquered dozens of planets, enslaving countless species, and wiping out those that stood in their way. The aliens, known as the Zorvani, had a reputation for being ruthless and unyielding. Their technology was far beyond anything humans had seen, and their warriors were terrifyingly skilled. But there was one species they had never been able to conquer: humanity. On board the flagship of the Zorvani fleet, Commander Xaler stared out into the vastness of space, his face twisted in a mixture of disbelief and curiosity. For the past few centuries, the Zorvani had been keeping an eye on Earth. They'd watched humanity evolve from primitive tribes to the powerful civilization it was now. Yet, every time the Zorvani tried to make a move, something unexpected always happened, something unexplainable. "We should strike now," a voice came from behind Xaler. It was his second-in-command, Lieutenant Tovra, her voice filled with impatience. "The humans are at their weakest. Their planet is in chaos. We can take it, destroy them, and end this foolishness once and for all." Xaler slowly turned to face her. His eyes, glowing faintly with the cold light of his home planet, were full of hesitation. He had heard Tovra's argument many times before, yet something always made him pause. There was something about humanity that unsettled him. "They're more dangerous than you think," Xaler said quietly. "We've tried to destroy them before. They've fought back harder than we expected, but that's not the worst part." Tovra raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean, Commander?" Xaler leaned back in his chair, crossing his arms. "Humans have something we don't, something no other species in the galaxy has. Resilience. A drive that goes beyond reason. They never give up." Tovra scoffed. "Resilience? We are Zorvani. We have the power to crush them in an instant. Why do you hesitate?" Xaler stood up and walked to the large window of the bridge. Outside, the planet Earth glowed with life, its surface covered in oceans, cities, and vast wilderness. "I've been studying them," he said, his voice low and contemplative. "Every time they're pushed to the brink of extinction, they fight back. And they don't just fight, they adapt, they evolve. Every time we think we have them, they find a way to surprise us." Tovra's face hardened with frustration. "This is pointless. We should have destroyed them years ago. What is the point of studying them? They are weak." Sailor's eyes narrowed. "That's where you're wrong, Tovra. They are not weak. You don't understand their true strength. I've seen it firsthand." Tovra frowned. "What do you mean?" Xaler's mind flashed back to the last mission his fleet had attempted against Earth. It had been a year ago, and the Zorvani had launched a full-scale assault on the planet. They had advanced far into human territory, wiping out cities and disabling communication networks. But then something strange happened. The humans, instead of retreating or surrendering, fought back with an intensity that Xaler had never seen before. They fought like they had nothing to lose, like they were fighting for something greater than just survival. The Zorvani had expected them to fall, to give up, but instead, the humans rallied together in a way no one could predict. Their armies, their technology, and their sheer willpower made it impossible to finish the job. And then, there was the battle in New York City. Xaler had witnessed it personally from the command ship. A small group of human soldiers, outgunned and outmatched, had taken down one of the Zorvani's most powerful war machines, using nothing but sheer ingenuity and courage. The soldiers had used their knowledge of the terrain, setting traps and ambushes that the Zorvani couldn't predict. By the time the Zorvani realized what was happening, it was too late. "They don't back down," Xaler said, his voice almost inaudible. "They'd fight with everything they have, even when they're outmatched. And they win, not because they're the strongest, but because they never stop trying. That's why we can't defeat them. That's why we never kill them." Tovra shook her head, unconvinced. "I don't believe it. How can a species so primitive be a threat to us?" Xaler turned to face her, his eyes hardening. "They're not primitive. They're unpredictable. And that's what makes them dangerous." Just then, the ship's sensors beeped, and a holographic display appeared in front of Xaler. A human signal had been detected. It was a distress signal from a small colony on the outskirts of the solar system, a place that had been under constant Zorvani surveillance for weeks. The Zorvani fleet had assumed the humans in that colony would be easy to pick off. But the signal wasn't a cry for help, it was a challenge. The message read, "We are humans. If you want to fight, we'll fight, but we won't go down without a fight. We never do." Sailor stared at the message for a long moment. It was exactly what he had expected. The humans were sending a direct challenge to the Zorvani, daring them to continue their war. They had nothing to lose, and yet they still stood tall, defiant and unyielding. "Do you see it now?" Sailor asked quietly. Tavra was silent, her face a mixture of confusion and reluctant admiration. "So, we just leave them alone. Let them go." Sailor shook his head. "No, we don't kill them, Tavra. We respect them. We've learned that the hard way." Tavra turned back toward the window, staring at Earth. Slowly, she nodded. "I understand. They are not weak. They are strong in a way that we don't comprehend. That's why we can't destroy them." Sailor smiled slightly. "Exactly. That's why we don't kill humans, because they will always find a way to rise again." And so the Zorvani fleet, for the first time in their long history, chose to leave Earth alone, not because they lacked the power to destroy it, but because they had come to understand something far greater, the indomitable will of humanity. They had underestimated it once. They would not make that mistake again.